YouTube, Jupin Shinobi here with another Ramble, and today's topic is the U.S. Pokemon National Championships that was just held in Indianapolis, Indiana, this past weekend, July 4th through July 6th. I go every year. This is my 11th Nationals playing competitively, and that is kind of nuts when you think about it. It's really hard to believe it's been that long. A lot of things changed. The game's changed quite a bit. Obviously, it's been growing every single year. I'm not sure about this year, honestly. I don't think there was ever full numbers announced for any of the attendances. I know there was 889 Masters, which I believe is down from the year before. But given this format, it's kind of understandable. Real quick, for those of you who don't know how the organized play for Pokemon TCG works, we have cities, states, regionals, nationals, and worlds. And then we also have things called league challenges, which are just really tiny tournaments that are held at Pokemon League locations. And I believe that's everything. There's pre-releases too, but those don't really count for competitive organized play. So, states and higher all have this new format working now where it's best 2 of 3 for the normal rounds. It used to be the fact that it was best 2 out of 3 in normal top cut rounds for the finals and such. So basically what this did is we went from rounds being 30 minutes long, plus 3 turns. That's a thing too, but I won't bother explaining that. And to now we have 50-minute rounds that are best 2 out of 3. And so chances are you're going to be there for at least a good 30, 40 minutes. Whereas before, if you beat them quickly, they beat you quickly, you had a little bit of time off to relax. And so it's a lot, I don't want to say a faster pace because it's not at the slightest. But essentially what it does is it makes tournaments really long. And when you factor in that you're playing 2 to 3 matches for every 1 match in the old format, it does start getting a little bit mentally taxing after a while. One of my friends tweeted that the Pokemon trading card game has turned into an endurance sport. And it really is. Not so much a physical endurance, but just a mental endurance that competitive play in this game does actually take quite a bit of thought and strategy and thinking. And when you're doing that for 2 to 3 matches every round, and Nationals, for instance, on Friday was 9 rounds. So you're playing 18 to 27-ish, somewhere in there, rounds of Pokemon before you're done. They didn't get done with the normal rounds until almost 10 o'clock. And it started at 8 o'clock. We had to be in the seats for the player meeting. So that's 13 hours since the rounds didn't start until a little bit after 9 of Pokemon. And while that's great, there was no lunch break this year either. Meaning you had to rely on a swift victory or a swift loss to go get food, or you had to hope that there was a parent or someone who wasn't playing in your group that you traveled with to go get food for you, which was very annoying to me because, if you get done with a match, you're not really sure how much time you have between rounds. Sometimes the in-between rounds was swift. And they got the next round pairings up within 10 minutes or so. But one round, there was almost a half-hour gap between rounds. And you never know, so you don't know whether it's safe to go run and get something to eat. And so that was a little bit taxing too. Personally, I dropped after the 4th round. At that point, I was 1-3. No ties, 3 losses, 1 victory. And that was out of top cut range already. You had to advance to the 6 rounds that they played on day 2. You had to have basically a 7-2 record or a 7-1-1 record, I believe. They took the top 32 from each flight and moved them on to a 6-round tournament for day 2. So to kind of sum it up, day 1 was 9 rounds of Swiss. Best 2 of 3, typical tournament rules. Then they took the top 32 from each of our flights. And so they took the entire group of masters, divided them into 2, and basically it was 2 separate tournaments going at the same time. So they took the top 32 in each and pooled them into a new tournament on day 2. That was 6 rounds of Swiss. So there was 15 total rounds to determine the top 16, I think is what they cut that tournament to. So yeah, that's a lot of play. I guess thankfully I'm not the best at this game. I enjoy it like no other. I play it all the time, and I keep up with the metagame. Absolutely, I just don't have the mental brains for it. I suppose I'm stupid. But thankfully, I dropped. I got to eat, and we just kind of hung around the rest of the day. There's side events going on all weekend. There was 8-person pods. There was a couple bigger tournaments. I just played 8-person pods all weekend, basically. So that kind of sums up the atmosphere of the tournament. In one way, I kind of like how they set it up, because if you did not do good on the first day, then you had the entire day Saturday to just kind of hang out, play side events. In previous years, they had the Swiss rounds divided up. So it's usually always 9 rounds of Swiss for nationals. But kind of what they did was last year, I think we played 5 rounds on Friday and then 4 rounds on Saturday. And so we got done with the tournaments pretty quickly back then. So there was always time around dinner and stuff to just hang out, walk around the city, get something to eat, be with your friends, etc., etc. With 9 rounds of Swiss and no lunch break, if you were stuck in the tournament, if you were doing good, there was basically like no turning back. Like there wasn't any sort of cutoff for you, and I thought that was a little bit aggravating. It didn't, in the long run, it didn't affect me at all. But looking at it from a player standpoint, I think that's a little bit eh. But all in all, I see why they did it. I see why they're doing what they do. I don't particularly agree with it. I would much rather have tournaments that are just single rounds, 30 minutes plus 3 again, because that was the format that I enjoyed the most. Like I said, I understand they're trying to limit the first round victories and stuff, or just you lose because of bad luck and stuff like that. So I completely understand it. I don't like the fact that the tournament play for this game has kind of turned into this big, long mental showdown kind of thing. But that being said, as much as I don't particularly agree with the way that the format is right now, I had an absolute fantastic time on this trip. I always do. And it's something that I generally look forward to every year. Going to these things for 11 years now, you see a lot of the same people. And then, of course, you obviously every year you meet new people that you'll see next year, hopefully, too. So playing so long, you've grown up like a big list of acquaintances that it's always great to see, because you don't end up talking to them for a year and you get to catch up and everything like that. So it's always fun to see the people you battled against last year show their face again and hopefully get to battle them again, stuff like that, unlike Ash in the show, who never actually fulfills his promises. But that part's always fun, and it's a great little atmosphere that they got going on in the convention center. I said this about Power Morphicon, when you're in a atmosphere that is filled with people that like what you like and have a passion for what you have a passion for, it's really kind of a good feeling that it's like you're around company, sort of. And like I said, going for these so long that so many people know me and I know so many people, that it's really fun to always enter the tournaments and hang out and meet everyone that you've sort of got to know over the past couple of years, and hopefully for years to come as well. So I always have a great time. Like I said, the tournament didn't go well for me. I was playing Charizard EX. Charizard Pyroar was kind of the obvious sort of route to go. I was playing a more offensive version. I was just going straight Charizard EX with Raichu. There was one Leafeon in my list, a normal Reshiram, and one Zekrom. I was using my friends list. I haven't been playing a whole lot this season, so much as I wanted to. With the tournaments costing money now, it's something that I sort of have to think about whether I want to attend or not. Like regionals, I didn't attend this year, but regionals, for instance, was I think $25 to participate in, plus the drive to Fort Wayne, Indiana, I believe, was our regional location. So you have to figure in gas to drive all the way down to, for me, Fort Wayne, and then the $25 entry fee, and then food, and you have to sort of factor in whether that's actually worth it in the long run, especially because I know I'm not going to make top cut, because I never really do. I'm there for the experience. So you have to kind of think about whether that's worth it or not, and for me, this year, it really wasn't. I didn't like the best 2 of 3 format at all. And I don't particularly like this meta either. There isn't that much of variety. We're starting to see a little bit of variety now, but earlier in the year it was just a bunch of Genesect and everything, and it was really annoying. Now Eviltal's in there. It's basically Genesect, Eviltal, and then random stuff. But I like what ended up winning the final, so that was really cool. And I think Pokemon is putting up all the final matches on their YouTube channel. I know they were streaming on Twitch, but so I think they're putting them up on their YouTube channel. So I do recommend going to check those out, both the TCG and the VCG. I don't play competitive video game, so I can't really speak for that tournament atmosphere, but that was going on as well. So if you're a video game fan, it's worth kind of going down there and watching some of those matches and participating in that tournament as well. But like I said, I can't really mention a whole lot about it because I didn't participate, nor did I really get to watch a whole lot this year. The VGC finals were after the TCG finals this year, so I only stayed to watch the TCG finals, and then we had to get going. And I haven't actually watched the matches yet, if they're up anywhere, but hopefully I'll get to that soon. But one thing that I do want to highlight that was absolutely amazing this year was the Professor Cup. For those of you not familiar, Pokemon Professors, you take a test once you're the age of 18, and if you pass the test and you're a Pokemon Professor, and you get points for hosting leagues, running tournaments, etc. I run a league with my buddies, so I get points through that. I would like to run tournaments. I haven't really had that opportunity as of late to judge or run tournaments, but it's something I am very much interested in. So hopefully I can talk to my Tio that I've known for 10 years at least now, and see if I can get something going with him. But so if you meet the criteria, which is usually about 75 professor points, which is about not too much judging actually. They're pretty lax on it. I think you need about 5 to 7 tournaments under your belt or league seasons, which isn't really too hard to do. But every year they host a Professor Cup, which is it's a fun little tournament for the people who don't get to play as much because they're busy leagues or judging or running tournaments and stuff like that. And it's always very fun. They add rules, change rules up. There's always some sort of weird deck building mechanic that you have to go off of. That is very, very fun. So I've had the pleasure of being in this almost every year because the professor rule used to be 16. So when they started this up, I was a professor, and then I think for a year or two I wasn't because I think I was in it the first year, and then after that they switched it to 18. So I had to bow to the Professor Cup for 1 or 2 years until I was old enough again. But these are such fun tournaments, and I'm always really thankful to the Pokemon Company for putting these together. And so this year's deck building format was a 30-card deck, commons and uncommons only from the X and Y and Flash Fire expansions. So we only had 2 expansions to build decks out of, which caused for a little bit of monotony in the tournament. We had Torkoal, Rapidash, Solrock and Lunatone were a combo, Avalugg, Dodrio. Those were kind of the 5 big ones that was in these tournaments. I don't know what deck ended up winning. I'll have to look into that. Let's see if I can find it. But the extra gimmick that we had going on this year was that each round something new would happen to change the game. And so I have all of the different rules in front of me. So I'm going to go ahead and read those. So our first round, keep in mind that these are 30-card decks. You lay down 3 prizes, and you draw a hand of 7 at the beginning. So you're looking at a deck of about 20 to start the game with. And so the first round, we had to, at the beginning of our turn, we had to draw as many as the number of prizes we had left. Normally, you only draw 1 card at the start of your turn. At the beginning of the game, we were drawing 3 cards a turn, and then 2, and then 1, depending on the state of the game. So that was basically a deck out challenge. You decked out very, very quick in that format. So that was fun. Round 2 was really stupid. I hated round 2. We had to do this thing called Simon Says, and I mean that's just a typical normal playground game. But we had to say Simon Says and then announce our attack. If we did not say Simon Says and our opponent caught it, that attack would not be valid. So it was basically just the equivalent of passing. And so me and my opponent, he was about to win, and he didn't say Simon Says. And so the next turn, he did the same exact thing. And then so I was set up to finally knock out his Pokemon, and then I forgot to say it. So he ended up winning that match, which I was fine with. If it wasn't for that rule, he would have won anyway. But that was really funny. Round 3, we did reverse turn order. So you started your turn by attacking. Then you played trainers or attached energy, and then you drew your card to end your turn. So it was a whole different game that you were thinking about here, because you had to set up for your attack to start your next turn as opposed to ending your turn. And with that in mind, if your opponent was playing cards like Team Flare Grunt that discards an energy, for instance, I had my Torkoal set up to do 80 damage and knock out his Dodrio next turn. He plays Team Flare Grunt, discards my energy. I now have to use Live Coal, I believe it was, his Torkoal's first attack, instead of the one that would knock him out, so Dodrio was safe. It's an entirely different style of play that is really kind of fascinating. It would be interesting to see a full sort of tournament based around that. Round 4 was a very typical switch decks with your opponent. So you sat down with your opponent, you handed them your deck, they handed you their deck, and you had to play with each other's deck, which was unfortunate because I was playing a fire deck and she was playing a grass deck. I lost. Turn 1. Well, turn 2 actually, but her turn 1. But anyway, that was kind of unfortunate. But it was a fun idea that I think would be really cool to expand upon. Round 5, which happened on Saturday, we played 4 rounds on day 1 and the remaining 3 rounds at day 2. Round 5 was just random events. So we had Dan was the head of the professor sort of area of organized play, if I remember correctly, with us hosting the event, and he would just come on the microphone and announce something. Each player had to flip a coin. If it was heads, you were now confused. So you had to work around that. At one point, he put a stadium card called Tropical Beach. For those of you that don't know, Tropical Beach is about a $140 card that they gave out at Worlds that is a stadium that lets you end your turn and you draw as many cards until you have a hand of 7. It is a very tournament-heavy card that anyone that has it uses, but so many people don't have it. That's kind of a very skewed card, and it's a little bit controversial. But that he just put in play, so until you put down another stadium, you could use that effect. Another one was you flip a coin. If it was heads, you heal 30 damage from your active Pokemon. And then another one was that no Pokemon had retreat costs anymore. So that was interesting. Round 6, you had to reveal your draw. So at the beginning of your turn, you draw your card. You had to show it to your opponent. If you could play it, it had to be played. So if it was an energy, you had to attach the energy somewhere. If it was a trainer that could be played, you had to play it. So that was, if it was a Pokemon that you could put down, you had to put it down, or evolve, etc. So that was very, very interesting. It didn't affect me all too much, because I just couldn't set up that game at all. But that was a really cool rule. There was one game going on around the time that time was called, and so to make things even more fun, Dan walked over to that match and said that this match now had FIFA fever, and they picked up their Pokemon cards and used them as paper footballs, and the person with the most points after 5 flicks won the game. So that was fun. I didn't even get to watch that really because there was a crowd there and I couldn't see it. But and then the last round for Swiss was you play with your prizes face up, which isn't anything too crazy. But it was kind of reversed where if you get knocked out, you draw your prize card. And so when you have no more prizes left, your opponent wins. It's a reverse situation of normal gameplay. Another additional thing there was that you could take a prize card randomly during your turn. So if there was a fire energy in your prizes that you needed that turn, you could pick it up. Just remember that if you run out of prize cards, you lose. So that was a nice, interesting kind of stack of rules. That was pretty fun. The top cut games also had some cool rules. The top 8 was you could discard a card in your hand. You could discard up to 2 to do more damage. So for every card you discarded, you could do plus 10 attack. Likewise, the opponent could discard, but this one did not have a cap. You could discard to make the attack do 10 less damage, which was kind of neat. I didn't get to play that, but because I didn't make the top cut for the Professor Cup, but it's something I definitely would like to try to experience at some point. It just seems like a fun game mechanic. Top 4 was the same draw and play that we did in the Swiss rounds. You draw your card. If you can play it, you have to play it. But it didn't affect the normal rules like it did before. So if it was a fire, you had to attach the fire energy somewhere, but you could also attach a normal energy for your turn, play a supporter for your turn, etc. So that was kind of neat, a little bit of expansion on that rule. And then finally, the final 2 match was a format that we did a couple years ago in the Professor Cup, actually, that you search your deck at the beginning of the game, you pick which Pokemon you want to start with, and then you play that down, shuffle your deck, start with a normal hand of 6 instead of 7, because you picked your Pokemon already. So that it was a little bit of a letdown that it was a rule that we were all used to playing the Professor Cup for so long, but that's a rule that I always really enjoy. We played a full tournament with that rule, and it was really fun because you kind of have to put in like a starter Pokemon that you want to use for your deck, and it adds a little bit of thinking to your deck building. And that's kind of what I like about the Professor Cup so much, is that it's so out of the norm that a lot of cards that would normally be absolute crap, like Avalugg, for instance, or even Torkoal, end up getting used heavily in the tournament because the format allows them to be very exceptional cards. And with some of these rules, if they were implemented into a full tournament, like the reverse turn order thing, you're building your deck in an entirely different method, really. And I find that and your attaching energy is completely different as well, because you almost want extra energies on your Pokemon in case they get like energy removaled or anything like that. So it's a completely different method of deck building that I always find really fascinating about the Professor Cup. And I kind of wish this could be held more than once a year, but it's definitely what I look forward to most out of Nationals. And I think one of the biggest disappointments this year was the fact that because on Friday Nationals was going and then the Professor Cup started at 6, the Swiss rounds weren't done by 6 this year. So if you were planning to play in the Professor Cup but you were doing well in Nationals, you couldn't do both. You had to pick and choose. one of the professors that we were playing with was, I think, 411, I believe he said, and he dropped from Nationals to go play in the Professor Cup. One of the additional things about the Professor Cup that's really cool is that there's 3 packs on the table. Winner gets 2, loser gets 1. So you could go 0-7 throughout the entire Professor Cup and still walk away with 7 free packs of cards, which is really nice. And sometimes they gave out door prizes. They did not this year. We did not get a freebie item, nor were there door prizes, which was kind of disappointing. Because it's always been a staple of the Professor Cup is to get some free stuff. But we got packs, so that's always worthwhile in the long run as well. So, as always, the Professor Cup was huge for me, and I really do enjoy playing in that. But all in all, I had an absolutely fantastic time. A quick shout-out to, I don't know if you have a YouTube username or anything like that, but Caleb, you know who you are. He is a fan of mine that actually sat kitty corner for me in the Professor Cup and recognized me, and we just kind of hit it off and talked most of the weekend. So huge shout out to you. We'll be talking sometime soon, I'm sure. And another shout out to, I didn't catch your name and nor like a YouTube username or anything like that, but you said hi to me right near the entrance doors. So if you're listening, you know who you are. Add it in the comments, say hello. It's always cool to get recognized, and I was not expecting to get recognized at the Pokemon Nationals, because most of my content's so Toku focused? That's new. Focused, I'm not used to something like that. But that was really cool. You guys are both really neat. And it was a pleasure meeting both of you. So shout out to you guys. Thank you for making the weekend even cooler, because it's always fun to get noticed. But that's really about it. All in all, it was a fantastic weekend. It was nice seeing everyone again. Thanks to the fact that I really haven't been going to too many tournaments this year, I haven't really been getting to see most of my usual people that I get to talk to every year. So it was nice to kind of catch up. And like I said before, it's nice to catch up to all the people across the entire United States that you don't get to see all too often, but you can always count on them being at Nationals and meeting up again, which I think is always kind of the coolest thing. And like I said, just being under one roof with so many Pokemon fans that are so dedicated to the game is really the most fun thing about the weekend. And as always, I had an absolute great time. Wasn't a whole lot of content in this ramble besides Professor Cup talk. So I do apologize stuff for that, because I don't know how entertaining this ramble was. But if you stuck around, thanks for listening, as always. And if, for anyone who's been on the fence about the Pokemon trading card game, I say this in all of my TCG reviews, give it a shot. Pick up some cards. Theme decks are great in that instance. You get to learn how to play. Each theme deck comes with an online code. If you go to TCG Online, download the client, type in that code, or scan the QR code, whatever you want to do. You get to play that deck online. You can fight against AI and then computer players. That's the same thing, Brian. Fight against online people as well. Each booster pack comes with a online code to get an online booster pack. So unfortunately, you can't transplant your collection into TCG Online or anything like that. But regardless, it's a great way to learn how to play, build some decks, and just have fun. If you are in an area that doesn't have a league or doesn't have a lot of big tournaments or anything like that, it's still a great way to kind of kick back and enjoy the game as well. Plus, it was just announced today that the original TCG Game Boy game is actually coming to the 3DS Virtual Console. So that's kind of exciting, even though the game mechanics are entirely different now. It's still a fun game, regardless. So check that out. Like I said, if you're on the fence about playing, I do urge you to check it out. It's a great game and an overall great community that I don't plan on going anywhere away from anytime soon. So once again, thanks for watching. Take care and have a great one.